Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Bruce Lee Legacy 50th version, which is basically just a reissue of the Bruce Lee that came out forever ago. I reviewed it then, but it might be a little bit different, and there's actually a little bit of an extra accessory in there, so that's kind of cool. The reason I'm reviewing it, though, is this guy's on sale at Big Bad Toy Store for Cyber Monday, and I'll put a link in the description below if you want to get one, but they sent it to me so I could do a review for you guys so you could decide if you want to get one while it's on sale, because why not get it when it's cheaper than when it's more expensive? So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Now, before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. It is a bright yellow package, very fun to look at. If you're an inbox collector, you'll enjoy it. Other than the fact, did I put it in wrong? I think I have it in backwards. Let me check, hold on. I might have put the tray back in. Yeah, I put it in upside down. I was gonna say, there's no way, there's no way they aren't showing the figure. Whoops. Okay, so this is how it'll look with the figure right here, which isn't the best placement, but it's definitely better than I had it. Anyway, it's a nice looking package, nice enough anyway if you're into that sort of thing. There you go, Legacy 50th version, and then on the back you see some posing options. There you go. Okay, decent package, nothing too special. Now, for the figure. I will note, this is an older figure that's being reissued, so we'll probably see some things we don't like as much based on today's technologies and design philosophies and things like that. And just because this is a review sample, I'm not going to mention any of the bad stuff. I'm just going to talk about the good. No, of course, I'm only joking. I'll still give it a good review, as if it's coming out today, because it is being sold today. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to give it some leeway for being a reissue of an older figure, but you get the idea. I'm still going to let you know if you want to buy it. Okay, so this guy stands just about, let's say, 5.5 inches. There's a little bit extra there for the hair, but I think that's reasonable. Let's call it 14 centimeters. Here he is up against Marvel Legends Darwin, who is never just in a neutral pose for some reason. Definitely not in Marvel Legends scale, but I think for most of you import collectors, he'll be in scale just well enough for your more close to true 1/12 scale figures. Alright, so let's do a question of the day. Do you guys collect figures of real people? Or only comic characters and video game characters and things like that? I don't have a hard and fast rule, but I tend to not do the real people thing. Even if they're movie characters, I don't own very many of those. Just a few. I have like a John Wick, a RoboCop, Terminator, and now, well, I had a Bruce Lee before, but I think I sold him at some point. So yeah, I have very few real people. It's just not something I'm super into, but let me know what you guys think. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic on this guy first. There's lots of cuts for articulation that maybe don't look like the articulation we're used to these days. We'll get into that in the articulation section more. I don't think it's like aggressive or anything like that. I think you'll be okay from that perspective, because you're probably going to pose him anyway, but even in the neutral, he's not exactly a really chopped up looking figure. I think it's reasonable. But as far as the sculpt and everything goes, I think the pants are pretty well done. I don't like how shiny they are. They definitely could be less shiny. But the skin tone is pretty nice. It's a nice matte finish. The face doesn't match the body exactly. It has that like fancy computer paint job type stuff going on. Let me get it a little brighter so you can see. It's a really, really nice paint job for the face. Even the little bits of hair that they painted onto the forehead to make it look more natural. Yeah, I think it's really good, and I think the likeness is more than acceptable. Like, it is definitely fine. As for the face not matching the body, it's nowhere near as noticeable in person as it is on camera, especially if you're not using studio lights. I think you'll be okay. It's not egregious or anything like that, but it is there. The skin tone for the body, I think, is good enough, but the body doesn't have the more realistic look like the face does. Both in sculpt and paint. There is shading throughout, so that's nice. But the face makes the body look bad, which is really unfortunate. Now, when you're posing it, you're probably not going to notice as much, but the head sculpt and face look like a custom thing made to be really nice, and it's just going on kind of like a generic body. So there's that. And then the other thing I think that throws this off the most, it makes his head look kind of big and his torso look kind of small, is the way they cut up the joint there for the diaphragm. Is they went too high. You don't want to go right up to the pecs. You want to go one notch below the pecs onto the abdomen to make it closer to an actual rib cage cut, and it'll make the figure look so much better, posability wise and just sculpt wise. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I don't think it's the best looking thing in the world. It's probably the best looking articulated Bruce Lee figure, but it's definitely not some kind of like super impressive thing, especially by today's standards. When this came out, it blew everything else out of the water. It was excellent. But by today's standards, it's just acceptable. It's just good enough. And I'm guessing those of you who still own the original release, you can vouch for it. Like, it's not holding up as well as you might have thought back when it came out. Remember, the Figma that came out was a giant disaster. But this guy's still good enough. I would say if you really want a Bruce Lee figure, it's fine aesthetically, but it's not going to be crazy impressive or anything like that. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10 by today's standards. When it came out, it was like an 8 or a 9. It was really, really good. For me, the biggest gripe is just that the body doesn't look anywhere near as realistic as the rest, or as the head, really. So it's a little bit unfortunate. As for accessories now, they do have 4 different faces, and they're all done pretty well. They're not perfect, of course, but they look really, really nice. Swapping them out's a little bit difficult. You might need some heat, but they do work. And then for hands, you get all the hands you would need, so that's good. Tons of hands. You get 3 different accessories, well, kind of 4. You get the nunchucks, or chucks as we call them. And then you get the big staff, and then the little sticks. Those are nice. And then you get this display stand, which says Legacy Bruce Lee, and it has holes for uprights for the pegs. It has holes, I can't speak English, it has holes for uprights for the display stands that don't come with it. So if you wanted to use like an Act 4 or Act 5 stand, you could, but it doesn't come with any. So you're just going to get the base, which is, I guess, fine, but it's unfortunate that it didn't give you the stand. In fact, I think that's ridiculous. That's very irksome. It's already a reissue. You couldn't include the 50-cent stand that would come with it. That sucks big time. But otherwise, the accessories are good, so I will go 9 out of 10, because I don't know what else you would need for a Bruce Lee, other than maybe like some swooshes or something for him to swing his chucks. But yeah, pretty good. Okay, now as far as articulation goes, we're going to see how this thing holds up. I haven't messed with it too much because I wanted to give you guys more of a live, real-time reaction to the articulation. So I will say, just as I'm handling it, certain poses, certain angles make this figure look great, and then other ones just not so much. So I think if you're going to pose them around some, you'll be able to make it look really nice. But let's see how the articulation actually functions. We've got some ball pegs in the neck and head, so it should move around pretty nicely. The neck is kind of stiff, but it does work. And then the head just moves around freely on there. So yeah, I think that's going to work. You may have to pop the head off and move the neck independently because it's a little bit tight. And the head's kind of loose, and that just makes it kind of annoying. But you can do it. I can't get the neck to rotate very much, just a little bit. But it does move in there, and so if you need him to pose, you should be able to. You should be good with the head, so that's good. For the butterfly joint on this guy, it does move forward and back pretty nicely without chopping up the chest too much. You get the collarbone connected up there, so that's pretty good. Going up and down, it doesn't do up and down, so it's just more of a traditional butterfly joint. Looser than I'd like, but not floppy. So you have that, and of course you're going to get your full rotation. The arm is technically on a ball peg going into the butterfly, so you have a little bit of wiggle up and down, not much, but you can raise the arm up. Does it only go that high? No, it has to go higher. It only goes that high? Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, it's probably going to be a usable amount of range, but there's no excuse for that. No good excuse for that, especially when the cut's already visible. That's not good. It almost looks like they inserted the shoulder joints upside down. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to pull it off without heat and stuff. So as it comes in the package, the shoulders don't raise very well at all. That's unfortunate. Bicep swivel is fine. Don't love the way they sculpted that, but it is functional enough. Double jointed elbow, really good range. Not the best looking. Definitely a dated design. Very ugly elbow, but functional. And then the wrists are on little ball pegs with straight pegs for the hands. Less range than you would normally see on a Figuarts figure. So again, very dated. It's probably okay, but even then, the way they did it isn't ideal. You get some weird offsets in the wrist, so don't love that. And then for the torso, let's see how the torso works. Leaning back at the top is pretty good. That's not too bad. Leaning forward, pretty limited. That's not great. And then going side to side, very limited also. Let's include the bottom. He leans back okay. Not extra range at all. Not like what you might want to do with a Bruce Lee action figure. I'm guessing a lot of people wouldn't want him to be in only the most realistic poses. Limited range going forward as well, and then side to side is still really limited. Of course, you're going to get your rotation in there, but those ball pegs do not afford very much range in the leaning department. Okay? Alright, for the hips They go out to the side, not very far. Can't do splits, and it's goofy looking. Big dips in right here. So that's not good. Yeah, I'm thinking this guy's showing his age more than I even thought he would. Bringing the leg forward, not the best range, not even completely horizontal, but it's okay. They are pretty loose, by the way. The hips are quite loose. You do get some thigh swivel in there, which is acceptable. I mean, that's good. Obviously, it's not good looking if you go out to the side. But yeah, he's not the best articulated figure for sure. Age is definitely showing. A single jointed knee is acceptable. Not really able to do too much of a deep knee bend, but it looks okay. Then for the ankles, it's just a ball peg, so pretty limited range. I mean, it's fine. It's more in the line of, well, even limited realistic range. Like, it's just okay. The toe hinge is well placed, but it's the bad kind where they put that chunk of plastic in there and whoever did it should be fired. Even back then, there's no reason to have a bad toe hinge like that. So well placed, but poor design. So yeah, his articulation kind of blows. Frankly speaking, his articulation is not very good. In some places it's good enough, and you'll be able to get him in his poses that you need to, but you're not going to be doing like Spider-Man poses or fun poses with him. You'll be able to do just basically the realistic ones, and that's it. So if that's good for you, that's fine. But for me in an action figure, I want to be able to push it past its reasonable limits in terms of posability for a character like this. Like, I want him to contend with Spider-Man or whoever else in action figure form, and he's not going to be able to do it. So that's unfortunate. I'll give his articulation a 7, which is pretty generous, I think. It just didn't age very well. Okay, and now it's time for the final verdict. Is this a good pickup? I don't think at full price I would bother, frankly, unless you really, really want a Bruce Lee figure. And I don't know like what the secondhand market is for the original release. But this updated version is not... I would have liked to see some updates, actually, rather than it basically just being a reissue. So, I mean, maybe there's some things I didn't notice that are technically updated, but it doesn't pose well, and it doesn't look great, so... On sale, yes, I would recommend it if you're into this sort of thing. But if it's not on sale, definitely not. I'm going to give him a generous 7 out of 10. You still get a good likeness and a really good spread of accessories. But you're going to have to put some effort into making it look good on your shelf, and posing it's not going to be the most fun thing ever. So it's not any sort of special release, and it's a good thing it's going on sale. And that's my takeaway from this. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But again, if you want to get one, I'll put a link down there and you can. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos just about every single day, and I do have thousands of videos already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.